there's just a ton of people, smiles, all these politicians with their big old smiles on their faces, and they're just like mingling and getting together to listen to this State of the Union address. And I guess I'll be giving my reaction. Before the State of the Union address, what's up, Christopher Perkins? How are you? Respect. You know, I've been doing a lot of research on this situation, and I've been staying away from even the stuff on the internet when it comes to like video footage of the war, and there'll be something like it appears that everything about this war says that Ukraine is kicking Russia's butt, that Russia is just not prepared to take over a place like Ukraine. There is no truth to that. The mainstream media would have you believe that Putin is some sort of dictator who is running around trying to take over countries because he's just so evil. And my only argument would be, why would Putin... Okay, here we go. Natasha Jordan, how are you? You know, the mainstream media is going to have you believe that Russia is getting their ass beat. No truth to that. They have the people on the ground over there. Russia never took out the internet. He's not taking out any civilians. He's only going after the army and their navy, and well, not navy yet, but he's taken out the whole entire air force. Russia has taken out the air force because this is what we have to understand. When we go to United States takes over, what we do, and we've been doing this ever since the Korean War, when where they have that Agent Orange, where they would take all these chemicals and just blast out the jungles of Vietnam. And then after they bomb everything, then they send the troops in. Russia didn't do that. What Russia did was they flew over to all Navy base, not Navy bases, all of the Air Force, airstrikes, and they just took out all the runways for their planes, took out their planes, so they have no tactical air fight whatsoever. And they have not messed with the people at all. The people still have running waters, running toilets. Whereas we in the USA, what we do is we take out the water pumps right away so people can't have toilets. And we create massive amounts of refugees where people...
I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
You know, in America, we flattened the land out. Russia didn't do that. Russia just took out all military and they're just moving forward. Something like 40,000 Iranian Ukrainian soldiers are trying to give up. They don't want the smoke. Russia is whipping ass. Don't get it twisted. Don't believe the hype.
Thank you all very much.
All right, let's hear what this man has to say. I have no visuals. This is just audio. It's live, though. It's live audio. And we're going to do our reactionary video.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Please. Thank you so much.
That was they
Madam
normally
Speaker,
clap longer. That was
Madam
quick.
Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justice of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight, we meet as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you.
I mean, he contradicts himself right there. Possibly the whole COVID-19 is the tyranny right there. What is he talking about?
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
There are no Ukrainian people fighting. That's a lie. There are no Ukrainian civilians fighting. I stand civilians. They're not fighting. That's a lie.
But President Zelensky, to every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies. Everyone from students to retirees to teachers turned soldiers defending their homeland.
That's not true.
And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, light will win over darkness.
Oh, boy.
The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved. Yes. We, the United States of America, stand with the Ukrainian people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving.
That's all they keep saying.
And the cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked.
Wow.
He rejected repeated.
Unprovoked is a lie. NATO wants to come in to Ukraine and put nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Remember how pissed off we were when the thought of this guy from North Korea having a nuclear weapon and what a threat that would be, that if this person had a nuclear weapon, they can send a nuclear weapon from North Korea and it'll be able to hit Hawaii in 5 hours or whatever the timeline is. Please understand, this is exactly what Ukraine did to Russia. They talking about bringing in NATO, who we supposed to love, and the 29 other countries. 29 other countries are down with NATO, including us. We're so good. We're part of the United Nations. We were built after World War II to bring the world together. And this guy don't want us to put nuclear weapons on his border. That's what Ukraine is doing. Ukraine is trying to put nuclear weapons on the border of Ukraine next to Russia. And Russia's like, yo, that ain't gonna happen.
Repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents.
Or NATO.
To confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying your European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how we would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, even Switzerland.
Stop it.
Are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together,
isolated from the world? Only NATO countries.
Together.
What are you talking about?
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions.
Oh, stop.
We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access.
What?
We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more.
Is he talking about himself? My God.
The United States...
they barely clapped.
I mean it.
They barely clapped. They were like, what?
The United States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
Oh, stop it. Nothing. That's going to do nothing. That's a joke.
He has no idea what's coming.
Oh, you told
The
him.
ruble has already lost 30% of its value.
Stop it.
The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value.
Stop
And
it.
trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering.
You've been doing that all year. The year before, and the
Let
year
me be
before, and the year
clear.
before. What are you talking about?
Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose,
Heard what he said. If Putin keeps moving west, I thought that Putin is getting his ass beat by the civilians. What is he talking about if they keep moving west? You see, what happened is Putin took out all the air bases and has been moving and covering more ground and taking over all of the air bases, all of the military, all wherever there's a naval base, any base that has to do with military, they're taking over it. Real simple. They're coming in with helicopters, black ops, and they're taking over it all. That's why they keep moving. He's saying that we are Americans not going to be over there fighting Putin. What we're going to do is we're going to give weapons to Ukraine so they can fight Putin. We're going to keep helping them. But that's all America has been doing already, has been helping Ukraine with military aid. Okay, this is not a mystery. It's not a new thing. So for this man to say these things that's already being done, you whoop-de-doo. And why are you saying that they're losing it, but yet you're saying he keeps moving further west, which is what he's doing? Putin is taking over this country one base at a time, and they're moving like lightning. Like lightning. These people are coming in and taking over. There will be a time when they are going to study the way Putin took over Ukraine, and they will study that in schools and places like the military schools. What are those called? Military schools. They have a where you join the military and you go like to West Point and all these kind of places. This is how good Putin is being. Everything else we're hearing is propaganda.
we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with a full...
Putin doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about Poland. He doesn't care about any places that are protected through NATO. He doesn't care about that. His whole thing is, in Ukraine, y'all cannot have NATO weapons pointed in our direction. That's just not going to happen. All this stuff he's saying now is just silly talk.
Force of our collective power, every single inch. And we're clear-eyed. Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them.
Stop it.
Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield,
now he may have gains in the battlefield. I thought now he's talking about the people are just fighting with courage. Thought you're gonna arm the people. Now they're fighting with just courage. And Putin, let me tell you, Putin is taking over this country. And he has not touched the civilians. Do not get it twisted that there's a bunch of civilians dying. They all have internet. All of them. They all have their cell phone towers. All of them. They have the power plants. Putin did not destroy any power plants. Putin did not take out any toilets. People are still flushing their toilets in Ukraine because Russia is only after government. He's going after all the government buildings, all the government sites, and all the soldiers. This is the way it's going down. He's taking over. You wanted to bring NATO and nuclear weapons over here. You wanted to listen to the United States of America. You wanted to give the politicians children's jobs and get all this money and funneling all this money and all these lies. They keep promising you that, but you hear this man just said it. We ain't going to be over there fighting. We're going to just send y'all something because y'all fighting with all this hope, wishes, and dreams.
We'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, proud, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have, They've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown
30 years.
that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And
We
I'm
should
taking
know.
robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world.
Release 60 million
America.
barrels
We'll
of
lead that
oil.
effort.
Why is that? Because Ukraine does not produce any oil. All Ukraine's oil gets shipped in. Nothing gets shipped out. So him talking about how 30 other countries, it's all NATO. It's all his crew. That's just like talking about my crew. You know what I'm saying? He's not saying that. He's acting like these are independent thinkers that have come together to help the weak and suffering. That's not real. That's not real. You have your gang is going to now supply oil to these to Ukraine, and he's talking about in the weeks and months to come. No. This thing is almost over. The weeks and months to come is an American thing. We go in, we level the place, we send in the soldiers, we stop the toilets, we stop the cell phones, we stop the internet. Putin hasn't done that. You know, the evil dictator who's out to destroy these people that are fighting so hard. Stop it.
Releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home.
Blunt
I know
them?
news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. Well,
How does that make sense? How does that make sense? How will the world be stronger by Putin's taking? Oh, and then he actually just said taking over, because they know that he doesn't want to look back in a week or two and they say, I thought you said that they were losing the war. He wants to be able to say, no. I did say if he takes over, then the world is going to be suffering. How? How's the world suffered from all the stuff we did in Libya? How's the world suffer from all the stuff we did in Vietnam? How's the world suffer from all the stuff we did in Iran, Iraq, and Syria? How has the world suffered from that? Are we speaking from experience? Knock it off.
while it shouldn't, it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake. Now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe.
The unity is from your crew, NATO. Why you keep acting like these are independent countries who are responding and acting on their own goodwill? You are talking about you and your crew have gotten together on some miraculous stuff. This is your crew. We're not impressed by your entourage of countries coming together to have Ukraine out there with his neck out.
A more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time.
The world is on the side of peace and security, but we still spend $600 billion on military a year. What is he talking about?
So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian
He
people.
can't even say Kiev. He
He'll
says
never,
Kiev.
he'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never, never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Someone just yelled out. I wonder what that was about. Someone in the background just yelled out.
We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced.
Oh, stop it.
The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's
What?
one of the first things I did as president was.
I mean, is this man talking about how he suffered? Ever suffered in his life? Ever? What's wrong with this person? What is wrong with people letting this man get away with talking about any kind of suffering that his family had to do? What suffering did your family have to do? Ever?
Fight to pass the American Rescue Plan because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those?
Immediate economic relief was the stimulus package that was paid to you from your taxes. This was your money that was given back to you.
Long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk. It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan.
It benefited you
The American
and everybody
Rescue
in
Plan
that room.
helped working people and left no one behind. Folks,
You have a room full of liars. The previous administration helped all of them. If you made over $80,000, you got a little break. Whoop-de-doo.
and it worked. It worked. It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs.
If you shut the United States down and then you hire people when you start to open back up, how are you going to include that as, look at all the new jobs? You took all the jobs away and now you rehired people, or you put up help wanted signs. So you think that you now created jobs? What you did was create people who needed to go back to work. This didn't help create jobs. What are you talking about? How stupid are we to accept this rhetoric?
In 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long.
What?
For the past 40 years, we were told the tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President
He's
Harrison
talking about
ran
everybody in the
for office.
room. They're
I
those
realize
people
we
that
have
took all the
fundamental
money.
disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America. Educate Americans. Grow the workforce. Build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because we know.
Oh my
Because
God.
we know.
What?
Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor will way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have
What?
the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan.
This is why I don't do politics anymore. I stopped doing politics. You know, I lost my Facebook channel because of politics. And I guess a little conspiracy. But it's ridiculous to imagine that this makes any freaking sense.
Infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest and rebuild America. The single biggest investment in history.
Rebuild
It's
it.
a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure.
Why is he
leaks.
trying to cape? Why is he caping for Republicans all of a sudden? A bipartisan effort we've done to make this. What?
We're talking about an infrastructure decade.
They don't like you?
And look, it's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century.
Economic
we face with the rest of the
competition.
world, particularly China. I told Xi Jinping, it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating impact.
You hear about this modernization of the roads across America. Agenda 21, Agenda 30. That's what it's all about. It's all about like what he's saying is that we need to create jobs because our infrastructure, remember this, he said that our infrastructure is 12th in the world. Because you go to places like, you know, all around the world. You go to different cities in Europe and the Netherlands or whatever have you. Even in South America, like some parts of Colombia, they have these cities that are so high tech. And their airports are just so far into the future. And you look at American stuff and you're like, you guys are dropped the ball. He's saying that what we need to do with the Republicans and the Democrats is get together to create these jobs that's going to allow us to create Agenda 21 roads, cities, towns, all of these infrastructure things that need to be built are all Agenda 21, Agenda 30, UN initiative, NATO-based theology. That's where you're going to have 7 major cities here in America. And all these roads, these high-tech roads that you go on, you won't even be able to get a car past it because your car will not be able to get past a certain zone. And if you want to go to the national park, if you want to go to the state park, if you want to go check out places like Yellowstone and all these kind of places, you just got to get reservations. No big deal. And there's only going to be certain roles allotted for that. He's saying that we need to build that infrastructure so we can compete with the world. What he's saying is that you need to build, you need to dig your own grave. Matter of fact, we're going to pay you to dig your own grave. Matter of fact, this
of climate change and promote environmental justice. We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace.
You see that? Because certain vehicles are going to be the only ones on these roads. And electric powered vehicles, they turn off immediately. That's why do not get a car that's built after 2015. All cars built after 2015 can be remotely started, stopped, and controlled. They just haven't done it yet. But all the cars are built for that. So you're going to need an older technology car just to get around if they win. If they win.
The poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school. We're going to provide affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks,
that's supposed to be a state thing. Every state takes care of its infrastructure. They use the monies that they get for the state and they fix up all these bridges, tunnels, and roads. What you don't know is that the government wants to come in and they want to tear up the roads. All your roads are going to be turned into dirt roads for the first couple of years, and then they're going to turn those dirt roads into grassy areas. They're going to plant massive amounts of grass and forestry and all this foliage or whatever they call the words. They're going to be turning America back into the grass and wilderness lands, and they're only going to be certain roads that you can get on.
When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying American. Buy American products.
I told you, they're going to pay you to dig your own grave. That's what they're going to do. They're going to pay you to dig your own grave, and then they're going to give you a score on that, internet that they're going to provide for everyone. You're going to have your own score, and they're going to say, you did really good. You dug your own grave so good.
Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure.
$600 billion. The federal government spends over $600 billion to keep you secure. That is the budget for the defense. That's the budget for the bombs and the guns and the food to feed the people that's going to pull the triggers.
To make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat or Republican.
You're going to pay for this. You're gonna be paid to dig your own grave. This is what he's saying.
Says they'll do it. But we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it.
Okay.
But folks,
we have the resources. What
to
can do?
compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't now. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass. If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams, the ground on which America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state.
Don't sleep on this. Intel stock. Let's see where it's at. Let's see where it's going. Obviously, they got big plans for this damn thing.
The arts factories in one place. 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip that power the world in everyday lives. From smartphones, technology to the internet, technology is yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who was here tonight, I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up.
Pay attention to Pat's neck. See if his neck is
Pat,
jingling and moving like a creature in there. All these corporations.
Pat came to see me and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from 20 billion to 100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk, I'll sign it, and we'll really take off in a big way.
Oh no, creepy sound.
And folks, Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is...
Ford is creating that in which he speaks of in Mexico, where they created the new Ford Ranger. And I think they might even be pumping out the Bronco from there too, the small one. What is he talking about?
making the largest investment in its history. $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone.
Stop it. Stop it.
Folks,
It's as if they took Etsy. And Etsy is a company where people are building things with their own hands, their own ideas, and they're selling it to the consumer. And there are probably listing a lot of their stuff in what they call manufacturing, and that could be just their garage. And this is the data I'm certain they're using to pump that BS that he just said. That's their source. Etsy.
powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says, Sherrod Brown says it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time
Why?
to see the what used to be called the Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing.
What?
And with all the bright spots in our economy, record job growth, higher wages, too many families.
Isn't the Rust Belt the way the wind blows? And the wind blows in a certain part of Nebraska and South Dakota and that part of the earth, that part of the United States, the way the wind blows creates. I know there's a dust belt, and the Rust Belt wasn't that the traveling of the salted air that ruined he's acting as if these states, the Rust Belt states, got their name from manufacturing of steel. I have to look into that, but it's just a lot of talking, a lot of underhanded, what they call that when you're dealing cards and you deal from the bottom. Yeah, that's that bottom deck dealing over here he's doing.
Are struggling to keep up with their bills. Inflation is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain.
Let's be honest here. All the beams that are necessary to build, we saw them building. Throughout the pandemic, infrastructure has not stopped. We've seen more homes and skyscrapers go up during the pandemic than ever before. So this man is 100% cap. Straight cap, full of it. What is he even talking about? That these people couldn't even, they weren't the places to build the beams. What? Not one building went without a beam during this pandemic. Stop it.
Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up.
Don't forget, if you had a garage full of alcohol wipes, they wouldn't let you sell it for $13. You only could sell it for $4 or $5. But if you had a car dealership, you were able to buy these cars and go above MSRP. So whatever the MSRP was, you had no regulations. The government never regulated how they can control all of this inflation, which was all BS. They had all these people trying to get plywood from Home Depot and Lowe's, and they were charging them $99 for a sheet of plywood that normally costs $42. So you got a sheet of plywood. Now the prices have jumped because they never regulated any of these corporations. They gave them carte blanche. So please don't act like this inflation thing was controlled. Please don't act like people just couldn't buy cars. Like, look at me, I have an excursion. Or my family, we have an excursion. And my excursion should be worth $5,000 right now. But it's not. It's worth $15,000 because of the pandemic and all the stuff that's going on. All of this stuff is smoke and mirrors. It's still a $5,000 car. Can you please stop it?
Especially used vehicles as well.
Used vehicles.
And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation.
Please, tell us.
Lower your costs, not your wages.
Who's he talking to? Who's he talking to lower your costs? Is he threatening these dealerships to lower their costs? No, he's not. No, he's not. He's just saying the words, lower your costs. Who's he talking to? Who's he talking to?
Folks, that means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, economists call this increasing the productive capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your costs and lower the deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans, support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs.
Who's he talking to?
We pay more for the same drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world. Just look at insulin. 1 in 10.
You could thank Clinton for that. He wants the drug companies, he didn't say that. He says he wants the prescriptions to be lower. Is he demanding that these pharmaceutical companies lower the price? Is he pointing them out? Is he calling them out? Is he standing 10 toes on this? Or this is just more fluff?
Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis. He and his dad both have type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean to think about that. That's what I think about. You know.
So you talked to the mother. Did you talk to the damn pharmaceutical company? Is there a bill that you're ready to sign that's on your desk to stop this? Or you just talking about how people feel about it?
Yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So everyone can afford it.
Is there a bill
and
on the
drug
table for
companies
this?
will do very, very well. Their profit margin.
Is there a bill?
While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs. That's what they do already.
They already set the price for VA drugs. Look, the American Rescue Plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans to save them $2,400 a year on their health premiums. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second,
is there a bill for this? What
let's cut energy
legislation?
costs for families. An average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80.
You know how many towns in America have pushed out solar power, wind power? Get ahead and put a wind turbine in your backyard and see who's gonna come knocking on your door and say, yo, what's going on here? Stop it.
A month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care.
Is there a bill for this? Who's he talking to, the air?
Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child. I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though.
Yeah.
I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families and help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth.
Why do we need the women to get back to work? Why don't we want the women to be there with their children? Why do we need women to hurry their butts up and get back to work? Shouldn't the mothers be there for the children, with the children? Isn't that more important? If we build in America, if we building it back better. Come on.
Well, my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. None of my plan.
Pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds means that someone else is raising your child. How could that be building back better?
And nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
In additional taxes. If you
I may
earn,
be wrong.
if you
My
earn more
guess
than
is if we took a
400.
secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody.
What?
Let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look, last year, like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I proposed a 15% minimum tax rate for corporations.
So it's not fair, then why don't you think someone needs to be punished? Why aren't you talking about auditing the Fed? Why aren't you saying that all these corporations make so much money and the little guy had to pay? What are you saying? That if I make over 400 G's, I'm not going to get any additional taxes? Right now, if you're making over 400 G's, you're paying like 30 something percent in taxes. The little guy who makes $35,000 a year is getting something like 45% of his income is in taxes. And he thinks that he doesn't want to get nobody in trouble? Somebody needs to be in trouble. Someone needs to get audited. How is this even possible? He's talking about it as a matter of fact, these companies all are getting over. He's not saying anything about how to stop this from happening.
We've got, and that's why in the G7 and other meetings overseas, I was able to be somewhat helpful. 130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs in factories overseas. It'll raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan, but we'll go more detailed later. We will grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes.
Let's get this done,
Folks,
y'all.
And while you're at it, confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role and fighting inflation. My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations, it undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? In my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. Tonight, I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud. Look, I think we all agree, thank you. By the end of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office. The only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year. Lowering your cost also meant demanding more competition. I'm a capitalist.
What is he saying? The last guy before me spent 20 trillion. I only spent 1, or I only spent 19, so I saved us a whole entire trillion. That's what I think he just said. I think he said, like I told you, when you're playing cards, he's dealing from the bottom. It's all bullshit.
But capitalism without competition is not capitalism.
Correct.
Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits.
Without exploitation.
And corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more because there's only 4.
Cap.
See what's happening with ocean carriers and moving goods in and out of America. During the pandemic, about half a dozen or less foreign-owned companies raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers.
Where's the bill?
Folks,
Where's the law? Stop it. Fluff. Fluff.
and as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down and costs have gone up. That ends on my watch.
Where's the
Medicare
bill?
is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure your loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely.
Where's the
We're also
bill?
going to cut costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot, provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees.
It's like an one of those, what do they call those, add-on sentence. He's just reading. He's trying to read this so fast. What did you say about the elderly and how Wall Street has bought up all these nursing homes and how the nursing homes have declined? What laws are you trying to put in place to solve this problem? What are you saying?
Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave.
Paycheck Fairness
Raise
Act.
the minimum wage to $15 an hour
No.
and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest.
Whoa. Hold up a minute. Historical black colleges were given 10 years worth of money that you took away in your first week as president. What are you talking about? Don't put the historical black colleges in your mouth. You take the historical black colleges out of your damn mouth.
And what Jill, our First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best-kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When the majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped. When we invest in our workers and we build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out together, we can do something we haven't done in a long time. Build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair because they lost somebody. But I also know this, because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to a more normal routines.
He can't even say
We've
it.
reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans in most of the country can now go mask-free. And based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across the next couple of weeks. And thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19, but tonight I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19.
We'll live without
We'll
it.
continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments.
Of course.
We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest degree of protection. We'll never give up on vaccinating more Americans. Now, I know parents with kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for their children. Scientists are working hard to get that done. We'll be ready with plenty of vaccines if and when they do. We're all ready. We are also ready with antiviral treatments. If you get COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer is working overtime to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost. Folks, if you're immunocompromised or have some other vulnerability, we have treatments and free high-quality masks. We're leaving no one behind or ignoring anyone's needs as we move forward. On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order another group of tests. Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests.
covidtest.gov. Remember that. covidtest.gov, which is connected to Bookings Holding Inc. So Booking Holding Inc. is in charge of all of this infrastructure that's necessary to build all these things with the, first it was the jab, now it's these pills. So don't forget Booking Holdings Inc. It's a good stock to keep going with that one. I think it's very expensive, but just pay attention to that.
Prepare for new variants. Over the past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress presides the...
He's like preparing us for the idea that 5 years that it took for a vaccine to get approved, now they're talking 90 days. You see how they were able to shift that in a 2-year period? We went from 5 years approval, then the public can get it. And then even after that happens, there's always so much danger still. But now, 90 days, we got you.
funds we need, we'll have new stockpiles of tests, masks, pills ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does. Third, we can end the shutdown of schools and businesses. We have the tools we need. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that here in the federal government. The vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school.
Yeah, from pre-K, remember? Away from their parents.
With 75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated and hospitalizations down by 77%, most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see y'all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope you'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475.
So here's the two bills so far. It's the Intel. Remember the Intel. Intel is one of the bills. He has it on his desk. He's ready to sign it. He needs Congress to act right. And bill number 2 is about the pills, masks, gloves, jabs. All the other stuff in between that is just stuff we need to do. We need to come out. You need to stop charging so much for this. You need to, let mothers feel comfortable about that. This and that. None of those things are bills. None of those things are on the table as can be productive to what's happening right now. Intel, definitely. Booking Holdings, Inc., definitely.
5 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread
What is that, a Trump
of these
jab?
diseases. We've lost so much in COVID-19. Time with one another.
Fine.
Worst of all, much the loss of life. Let's use this
A million
moment to
people.
reset.
Light.
So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is, a god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look. We can't change how divided we've been.
Why
It's a
not?
long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together. I recently visited New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both
Baby.
Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets. or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for
Body cameras. That's Axum. AXOMON. Axum. Doing very, very well. Let's pay attention to what these people say in these union things. So these body cameras. So we got Nextel, Bookings Holding Inc., and Axum body cameras. And then I'm curious as to what police he's talking about. He's talked about these police. He's talking about in the United States of America, period. He's referring to them walking the beats of the streets when these are all state. The state does what they want to do with the police. It's just fantasy land. He's just talking like as if he's just like sitting at a think tank table. And we're just spitballing ideas at each other. And he's giving this to us, the American people. Yes, the police need to walk the beats. But what does that have to do with the precincts? What does that have? The Supreme Court already said that the police have no obligation to provide aid, to help you. They have no obligation to do that.
officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies. Proven strategies like
we should have the people that, you know how he's putting out a new person for the COVID crimes? He needs to have a person check out all that money that the police have been getting. Let's have a panel of people policing that freaking money. You ain't saying that.
strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence
Community
and trauma.
violence interruptions. Oh my God. Did you know that they're paying people like you and I we can get a program going where we can have people walking the streets and we will file for grants so that these people can become violence interrupters, where they can see violence happening before it happens and interrupt it, unarmed, mind you. No, not even pepper spray, not even a bulletproof vest or a puncture-proof vest. They're giving these organizations all this money to do this, the most ridiculous thing in the world. You know, in the Netherlands, they have this, where they have teams of people that walk around the Netherlands talking to the youth not to do graffiti, not to urinate on the streets, to behave, don't get in any trouble. So there's people that walk around and they see young people, they stop, hey, young people, how are you? We just hope everybody's doing okay. There's no one doing drugs. There's no one, being unsafe. This is what they now are doing in America. And you can get a grant for that. You can get you a storefront, file for a grant, and have these violence interrupters put on little jackets that say violence into Big Elvis Rosenberg's Violent Interrupters Inc. And I can just have a team of 5 people have an office and make massive money off of this silliness. That person that shot those cops, no violence interrupters could have solved that problem, because it was a mother and son that were fighting, having one of their many fights. Mom calls the cops on her son. The son pulled out the blicky and laid those young boys down. How could violence interruption stop that, solve that, change that from happening? How could that have happened? The violence interrupters would have been on her street and would have saw that she was destroyed and say, ma'am, are you okay? And she would be like, my son, he's acting up. He's not right in the head. He's this and that and the other. What would they then do? Go in there and have those unarmed men killed? At least the cops had a chance with their pepper spray and their their stun guns and their 3 clips and their gun with 1 in the chamber and the safety off. Violence interrupters. I want to slap somebody.
Giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them. Fund them.
It sounds like you said F-U-N. He's such a jerk. Fund them. You sure you're saying fund?
Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities.
Resources and training.
I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. And we'll do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online.
Stop it!
At home. No serial numbers. Can't be traced.
That's not what a ghost gun is.
Proven measures to reduce.
That's not what a ghost gun is. It's not what a ghost gun is. What's he talking about? This guy's in a bubble. A ghost gun is not what he's talking about. The guns that you buy online and that you assemble by using blueprints that you can put into your 3D printer, those guns are the most unreliable weapons you can ever have. Okay? Most unreliable weapons you can have. And these ghost guns, what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of what is considered a ghost gun without the serial numbers are the guns that are allotted to be destroyed. That before they get destroyed, a person stops, intercepts that batch of guns, and then puts it on the streets, and they're like the worst guns in the world. They're all jamming. All these little gangsters out here in the streets, they got these ghost guns because the serial numbers are etched out, like I said, and they were meant to be destroyed through manufacturing of these guns. And then, what is it called? These 3D printing guns. Maybe they changed that 3D printing gun to a ghost gun. But no one there, what crimes are being created by the 3D printing gun versus those guns that are, what I know as ghost guns are the guns that are allotted to be destroyed and they never make it to the fire.
Gun violence. Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why?
How did they get on the list?
And folks,
why are they on the list?
Assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
Doesn't matter.
Repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one. Imagine had we done that with the tobacco manufacturers.
You can't, the tobacco manufacturers, actually, I don't think they can be sued any longer. And I know that the vaccine companies can't be sued. What is he talking about? There's a lot of companies that can't be sued.
These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives. The most fundamental right in America is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight I call on the Senate to pass the Freedom to Vote Act. Pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act.
John Lewis.
And while you're at it,
stop it.
Pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look, tonight, I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army veteran, constitutional scholar, retiring Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean it. Get up, stand up and see you. Thank you. And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of our nation's top legal minds, who continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. A former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
How did he just jump from that to this? What happened to Ketanji? We're over her? You know, this guy is talking about fixing our borders so quickly after talking about somebody he's nominated for the Supreme Court, who all the cops love. How do we go from that to the border? And how dare this man talk about the border? Didn't he just like pay like $16,000 each for the people that came here from you know where? Come on.
And as you might guess, I think we can do both. At our border, we've installed new technology like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols in Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges in a significant larger number so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led a generation of immigrants to this land, my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need and families don't wait decades to reunite. It's not only the right thing to do, it's economically smart thing to do. That's why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor unions to religious leaders to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's get it done once and for all. Folks,
I'm not going to go
advancing
there.
liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans. And folks, for our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I've said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential.
Wow.
Folks.
Well, all right, honey. Purr, honey.
As I've just demonstrated, all often appears we do not agree. And that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year.
I remember.
From preventing government shutdowns, to protecting Asian Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago.
Violence Against Women Act.
It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do big things. So tonight I'm offering a unity agenda for the nation. 4 big things we can do together, in my view.
Tell us.
First, beat the opioid epidemic.
Okay.
There's so much we can do. Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors that stop doctors prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction, you should know you're not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery. Second, let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The American Rescue Plan gave schools money to hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school...
Sorry, I just wanted a little heat.
Does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part. Sign up to be a tutor or a mentor. Children were also struggling before the pandemic. Bullying, violence, trauma, and the harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit.
Okay. How are we going to do that? What's the plan?
Thank you. Thank you for the courage you showed. It's time to strengthen privacy protections. Ban targeted advertising to children. Demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children. And let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help and full parity between physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance. Look, the third piece of that agenda is support our veterans.
He's all
Veterans
over
are
the
the
place.
backbone and the spine of this country. They're
He's
the best
all
of
over
us.
the place.
I've always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those we send to war and care for those in their family when they come home. My administration is providing assistance in job training, housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan have faced many dangers, one being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home, many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world. Never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag draped coffin. I know. One of those soldiers
Somebody
was my
yelled
son,
out.
Major Bo Biden. I don't know for sure if the burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near, in Iraq and earlier than that in Kosovo, is the cause of his brain cancer and the disease of so many other troops. But I am committed to find out everything we can, committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games.
Aren't we the ones that do the burn pits, make these burn pits, and have the soldiers put the Hummers in the burn pits? And what do you don't know? Don't you have advisors there? Don't you have Geiger counters and all these things to test the air? And you need to now still figure it out. Haven't we left these places? We're leaving these places. And let me also say this that I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate him not saying that there's 25 people blowing their freaking heads off every day that come from these places. You know, I like what he talked about when it comes to the air and how important it is and the cancers that these vets are coming in with. But there's no talk of the PTSD. There's no talk of the suicides that are being committed every day, 25, 30 a day. No talk of that.
And he loved building Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better.
How?
The VA.
How?
The VA is pioneering new ways of linking toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
announcing
What we're going to do is we're going to start acknowledging what these fire pits have done. Not going to talk about changing it, stopping it, or not doing it again. We're just going to at least give it a face and a name. That'll solve everything.
expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits and the comprehensive health care they deserve.
Stop it. They're not giving veterans anything. Where's the bill? Was that on your desk? Is this on your desk here? Stop it.
And fourth and last, let's end cancer as we know it. This is personal. This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala and so many of you. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the number 2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years, and I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I call ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health.
ARPA-H.
Patterned after DARPA in the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to.
This is DARPA we're talking about. This is defense. This is using military-style technology to solve cancer. How?
Wage war more with more clarity. ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power, and I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those 4 things. My fellow Americans, tonight we've gathered in this sacred space, the citadel of democracy,
The citadel.
in this capital. Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions, amid great strife, and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy.
Expand fairness and opportunity. How the hell do you determine what's fair? How do you expand fairness? This man is addressing the United States of America about what is fair. Who's the determines what's fair? My interpretation of what's fair and someone else's interpretation of what's fair doesn't always work. This is just jibber jabber, babble. This is just nothing.
As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp, because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities.
Oh, stop
on
it.
This night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
Go get him. Is that the new catchphrase? Oh my God. Now I'm sure everyone is just standing and just nice. Beautiful. Oh boy. Thank you for everyone who's commented. As you can see, I didn't even glance over at this. You are so super appreciated for this opportunity to check out this small channel on YouTube. Sitting in my car. I just finished cooking dinner for a family of 4. Okay? Ran down to the car and started to record. Not spending the time to have dinner with my family because I wanted to bring this to you. You are an amazing group. It's a small group we got here, but we got a group nevertheless. Maybe I will look at 1 or 2. Come on, let me see. I'll go backwards. You know, not from the beginning. Go to bed, Brandon. Ooh, no. It's been real. Oh, Naked Matrix. I love that name. Mary Jan. If it weren't for you, I would not have wasted my time for this. I appreciate that. Go get who? What in the holy hell is he talking about? Yo, was he all over the place like bird shit? Word salad. I love that. Who wrote that? Trap Politics TV. I gotta check your channel out. DARPA, really? Yeah, he called it like Harper. Like, why are you playing word games over here? Yeah, cancer's the biggest money maker. That's for Mary Jane. What in the world? Yeah, how? The psychiatrist. This is from Breezy. What up, Breezy? Thank you for all that participation yesterday in the chat. You were doing your thing. WW2 would made his father a basket case. Alright, this is a lot. I can't read all this, y'all. But I do appreciate you. I see LJ was in there. And, you know, we'll do it again. You know, what is this called? What is I'm calling this? Real-time reactions. And then, you know, all the real-time people or reaction people, all their faces are like, and all this silly stuff. So I got to work on my silly faces for this. God bless America. God bless you. Possibly there is no God, but you are here and I am here. And I'm going to go home to my family. I don't want to go anywhere else. That's a fact. And before I go, just always know I love you. Boom.